Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Marina, I'm a portrait and music photographer in Seattle. In early 2020, I've picked up my first film camera and I created this channel to track my film photography adventures. Today I'm shooting self-portraits on Lomo Turquoise as a part of my film portrait project. Stick until the end of this video because I will share a few tips and tricks on how to make this experimental film work for portraits. As far as I know, Lomography discontinued this film in 2014, the time when I had no idea that someday I will have a camera in my hands and let alone I'm gonna be shooting any film. Anyways, in 2021, Lomography announced that they are bringing Lomo Turquoise back and they started to collect pre-orders. So in October of 2022, I finally got my rolls. But they have been sitting in my fridge waiting for its time, and finally I decided to mess around with it and see what I can do. This is another experimental film in Lomography collection. The ISO is variable, you can shoot it anywhere between ISO 100 and 400. And this particular film transforms oranges into blues, greens into emerald, reds into blues, or purples, it depends on the vibrance of the red, as I've noticed, and blues become orange. I think this is very interesting film to play with. Majority of these film reviews and sample images were mostly street architecture, maybe some landscapes, and very little portraits. So I decided, why not? I'm gonna shoot portraits with this film because this is my thing, this is what I do, let's just mess with it and see what we're gonna get. With keeping in mind the properties of this film, I wanted to bring up certain colors into the scene to make the most out of this film stock. So for the light, I've had a strobe covered with red gel as a backlight, and as my main light, I had a strobe in a beauty dish covered with orange gel. I knew in advance that my skin tone will not look natural, it will become a shade of blue or turquoise or somewhere in that range. That's why I brought up this blue jacket to add a completely different color into the scene, and I think this whole thing worked well together. For the camera, I've used Hasselblad 500cm because it's really good when you work with strobes. Finally, the mystery of my underexposed images with Hasselblad has been solved. Huge thanks to this person that commented under one of my previous videos. Just another little detail to pay attention to when working with this camera and the flash. As for the settings, shutter speed was 1/60th of a second and aperture 5.6. I didn't touch these settings at all, I was only adjusting the power of the lights as I was moving around. And I metered this film at ISO 100. In my experience, such experimental films, they do like a lot of light. That's why I prefer to meter it at lower ISO. Also, there was Black Pro Mist filter 1/4 attached to the lens. Here's what I think could be improved here. So when creating these images, I have used smoke. And in this particular case, I think it worked against me. On some images, smoke created this uneven background, which in my opinion doesn't really look good. Several images just give an impression of foggy film or bad chemistry when developing. So yeah, next time if I ever create something like this, I would skip using smoke machine. Overall, I'm very pleased on how these images turned out. I think you can absolutely make experimental film work for portraits. I would say the biggest takeaway here when working with a Lomo Turquoise is it's gotta fit your particular concept. It has to work with styling, location, wardrobe, light, and colors that you have in the scene. Here's a few tips that will help you to create some interesting looking portraits with Lomo Turquoise. Tip number 1. Bring saturated colors into your scene. This can be a background, or clothes, or accessories, props, flowers, literally anything. Tip number 2. This is also general portrait photography tip. Make sure that the light on your subject is flattering to them. And finally, tip number 3. Pick a scene with a lot of contrast. Here's an example. Maybe you would use darker background, but bring very bright light on your subject. This way you will get a good separation between your background and your subject. And here's another light scenario. Maybe you would shoot on a bright sunny day against that bright blue sky and use flash on your subject. Again, you will get this nice separation between background and your subject. Let me know in the comments if you have any tricks on how to make this experimental film work. And thanks for watching this video. See you in another one.